How much should one spend on Google Ads for a new e-commerce startup? What's one piece of advice you wish you'd had when you started running Google Ads? My conversion rate plummeting over the last 12 months. Looking to learn more about Google Ads? I'm Abby and I'm here to answer some of your questions. Let's go to Reddit. Does Google Ads actually work for small businesses? So Google Ads can work for small to medium-sized businesses. It can be a little bit harder because you don't necessarily have the budget that all of these massive companies do when you initially start out on ads. So it can be a little bit daunting and you may not initially see the results that you're looking for. We work with a variety of small to medium-sized businesses that have really successful Google Ads campaigns. But I think the main thing to note is that it is very much a starting point when you first spend money on ads, and you just have to be really concise with where you're using your spend and then gradually grow it up as you start to see those results come in. My conversion rate plummeting over the last 12 months. This is something that we do or you can see across a variety of different businesses. You can start out with a really high conversion rate of like 4 or 5%, particularly over like the pandemic and the post-COVID period before shops were fully open. Loads of websites had ridiculously high and above average conversion rates. People couldn't shop physically, and so everything was being bought online. Post-COVID, and as we've moved away from people just having to purchase everything online, a lot of retailers have seen their online conversion rates drop. More recently, over the last 12 months, I would say that, particularly relating to this user who mentions that their landing page has stayed pretty much the same over this time, I would be saying you are needing to innovate both your Google Ads campaigns and your website constantly to make sure that you're keeping up with all of the trends and all of the new features, and just make sure that things like your landing page is still really fast. Make sure that all of your landing page products are still really relevant, and that in order to keep those conversion rates as high as you were previously seeing, if you're not making changes to your website, you are probably going to see your conversion rate drop. Let's go to Quora. How much should one spend on Google Ads for a new e-commerce startup? Difficult question. How much budget have you got? Essentially, we would recommend for any business that is first starting out on ads, we would recommend at least spending £500, dollars, currency equivalent. I don't like that. I wish I hadn't said that. We would recommend at least a £500 monthly budget, just so that you are getting enough traffic through the campaigns in order to be able to make decisions as to whether or not this is going to work as a marketing channel for you. We would then essentially recommend, if you're seeing results and it's above your break-even target and you're making profit, to reinvest that budget and slowly scale that up as much as possible so that you can start to see growth. But again, it will just completely depend on what budget you have available, how popular your products are, what your total search volume is, what kind of area you're looking to cover. Like if you're targeting the whole of the US, probably a bad idea just to have like a £500 or $500 budget. We'd recommend more, or starting out by just focusing on a few states, just because population density, you're going to get so many searches and you're going to appear in hardly any search basically. But we would usually say, yeah, £500 at least. When should you build a Google Ads Performance Max campaign? I think people can have a few different opinions on Performance Max campaigns and when you should first build them. In my experience, I've had some accounts where we've built a Performance Max campaign and it has just gone really well from the first day, and we started to see sales there, which is great. Other accounts, we've launched Performance Max campaigns and they've just not done as well. My preference is always to only really launch a Performance Max campaign when you've already got conversion data within the account, simply because the algorithm's going to work so much better when it's already got sales activity behind it. So it kind of already knows times of day, devices, browsers, just a little bit of user activity that's going to make it more likely to get sales. Usually, I would say between sort of 30 to 50 conversions per month, and then maybe start looking at a Performance Max campaign. However, they can sometimes just work really well without any conversion data, so that's just personal preference. If you are wanting to learn more about Performance Max campaigns specifically, my colleague Chris actually did a really great video on this that you can find over here. Now let's head over to some questions on Facebook. What's one piece of advice you wish you'd had when you started running Google Ads? One thing I think is really important, and we always stress the importance of it, is that you're checking your search impression share. So search impression share is just the percentage of the volume of sort of search that you can appear in based on your budget, your bids, and search terms that you've got in the account. We all know that having a really low search impression share isn't necessarily good for the account, and you're probably not going to get as much visibility and as many sales that you would like. But I think one thing to be really wary of is if you've got a really high search impression share. So if you're appearing in like 80 to 90% of the total search volume, but you've not like got any restrictions on your account, like you're not only targeting a very small area, you've not got like a tiny set of product ranges, it might mean that like the quality of your feed isn't very good, and so you're not actually appearing in a lot of search overall. So it may indicate that there's a bit of an issue. So if you've got really high search impression share, low search volume, it can sometimes be a bit of an issue. Should I use Google Ads? So again, really broad question. Ultimately, you're not going to know until you've spent money on Google and you've got some data back. There are some industries that we know, work really well on Google, and there are some industries that we know are slightly harder to get off the ground just because the market can be quite saturated. You as an individual business, there's so many different factors that can influence whether or not you're going to have a successful Google Ads campaign. The quality of your website, the quality of your overall service, what kind of products you're offering, how competitive your pricing is. All of those things are going to have a massive impact even before you start your Google Ads campaign. And then when you do actually start spending on Google, you're not going to know some of the responses to these questions. Like, say, for example, how do people react to my landing page? Through Google, you're going to get, hundreds, potentially thousands of users through to that particular landing page, and you're going to get loads of data on things like bounce rates, average time on site, and you may learn stuff about your landing page that actually, it's not as good as you thought it was, and it needs work on it in order to get people to make a sale. I would say you're not going to know until you've invested time and money into it, and although that's a risk, you will learn something from it. So I would say it is probably a worthy risk. Thanks for watching. Any questions that you do have, leave them in the comments box below. These can be about general digital marketing strategy or your e-commerce business in particular. We'll get back to you either in the comments, or you might be featured in our next video.
Like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. No, don't do the thumb fingers.
That was great.
Don't.